Hello everyone, welcome back. Today we're going to be talking about throwing knives and thrown weapons in general. The idea for this came up in the comments. I was having a discussion with somebody regarding this. I do have a good deal of experience with thrown weapons. I do medieval combat. I've dabbled a little bit with the thrown weapons as well. So there's two components with throwing a weapon, velocity and mass. Same thing as bullets, right? With a bullet, you have something that's really light, but we're giving it a lot of velocity so that it is effective. Okay, so I'm going to start off with a light knife like this. It's 3 ounces. I can throw this and make this stick into wood. It usually goes in, I don't know, maybe a quarter an inch in soft wood. Okay, but there's no way I could actually throw this with enough velocity to be able to penetrate somebody's skin, muscle, and then get to the organs. Okay, so I'm going to throw this into that pile of iced up snow over there, just so that you guys, just so we get a comparison of these different things that I'm going to be throwing. Okay, so let me throw this. Okay, it just basically bounced off of the ice. Okay. Okay, so that was 3 ounces. All right, so we got here the 12-ounce Marine K-bar. Okay, most of the veterans I've talked to over the last 12 years basically see this as a utility knife. There's only one that I met that has ever actually used this, to kill somebody, and that was a situation where they came around the corner, somebody standing with an AK there. They tried to bring the muzzle up. He blocked it with one hand to keep the muzzle. Basically, they were belly to belly. Blocked the barrel of the gun from coming up. Pulled out his knife. Quick move, stabbed him with the knife. And if he had a pistol, he would have went to the pistol, right? But pistols were not. It was not something that was issued to him. So the knife was basically a backup to his rifle. Okay. Now, again, most soldiers see this more as a utility thing. A lot of them told me that they use this to break to basically puncture the tires of cars in some situations, right? So that's a way that this was used. They used this to, if they were trying to dig something to break ground. So most of them see this more as a utility thing than as a self-defense or offense type of weapon. Okay, so 12 ounces. Let's throw it at that ice, and we'll be able to kind of get a comparison of how what the heavier weight does. Okay. And landed with the back end, but you can see that, hey, the 12 ounces definitely bit into that ice a little bit better. Okay, get this in back. Okay, so that's the K-bar. Bowie knife. All right, let's try this guy out. Okay, so this thing is a knife, kind of like axe. So because it's really blade heavy. So you can actually use this to, as kind of like an axe in the chopping process. Definitely has a lot more mass to it. Let's weigh this thing over here. Okay, so we got 1 pound 10 ounces. Okay, let's throw this at the ice over there. Let's see what this does. Okay. It landed with the back end, but you can see how that, that dug into the ice a little bit. Okay, obviously that had more of an impact. Let me get this out. Now with practice, you can get this to land more with the blade. You can make your job easier by getting, basically, if you took the wooden handle off of this thing, or the two wooden halves over here, the tip would be more prone to going forward. Can I throw this fast enough to get those 3 to 4 inches of penetration? No, there's no way I can do that. Okay, could a baseball player that throws a fastball at 100 miles an hour, or a football, or a football quarterback that throws a football 100 yards, throw this fast enough to get those 3 inches of penetration? Probably. Okay, I don't know for sure, but I think that somebody that has the right talent, the right genetics, can throw this fast enough to kill somebody with this. Okay, but I don't think that the average person will be able to do that. Yes, you could throw this you could throw this to definitely get some penetration, right? You can probably get all the way through the, if it lands with the blade, you can probably get all the way through the skin, go into the muscle a little bit. But I definitely don't. I don't think you're going to go through, get all the way through the muscle and penetrate and get into the organs, right? Get to a lung, get to get to the heart, get to I don't think that the average person can do that. Okay, let's put this away. All right, throwing axe. Let's weigh this sucker. Okay, 1 pound, 12 ounces. Okay, but it's not just 1 pound, 12 ounces, right? Almost all of that 1 pound, 12 ounces is concentrated up here. So that weight is really concentrated here. Now, mind you, this definitely sticks into wood, right? I've used this, at a lot of medieval events. It's not razor sharp, okay? This is not razor sharp. It doesn't need to be razor sharp in order to stick into things. Because what really makes it work is its mass, and it does have an edge, but it doesn't need to be a razor edge, okay? Let's throw this at the ice and see what happens, okay? Okay. First of all, it landed with the head, okay? It landed with the head because, obviously, first of all, I got this long handle, right? That long handle, basically accelerates the blade, right? Because it's further away from my hand, it allows it to accelerate even more because it's going through a larger arc, and it's more prone to landing with the head. But here's the thing: even if this landed with this part over here, this can still do damage, right? So it doesn't matter if it lands with this part. Really, this is a specialized weapon for throwing. Let's throw this one again, right? And again, the throwing technique is you use your whole arm, right? So the power is coming from the lat muscles over here. Let's throw this out. Okay. Same thing. It naturally lands with the head. That's how it wants to go. Designed for throwing. Let me get the 2 axes out. Okay, this one went into the ice almost all the way in. Now, can the average man throw this hard enough, or fast enough, for it to have an impact? Well, here's the thing. I don't think that this can be thrown, if you throw this and you catch somebody in the head, yeah, that'll kill them, right? If you throw this and you catch somebody on the body, okay, you might break those bones, okay? You can take somebody out of the fight, right? But I don't think that you can kill somebody. So I think a lot of that movie nonsense that you see, I don't think that it's accurate. You can throw this. If it hits somebody, it's gonna hurt. You might actually take him out of the fight with this. But unless it's to the head, it's not gonna immediately kill him. Okay. But this is a specialized weapon for throwing. Now the other thing is, keep in mind that when you throw your weapon, basically you don't have that weapon anymore. Okay. The other thing here is, when you throw your weapon, it can be thrown back at you too. Okay. So that's another thing to keep in mind with thrown weapons. They can go both ways. Okay. Let's put this down for a second. Spear, okay? Let's talk about, or the javelin, right? or what the Romans called the pillium. Okay, this thing. Let's weigh this thing. Okay, so this weighs like 3 pounds, 4 ounces. But a spear could have been anywhere from 2.5 pounds, maybe all the way up to 4.5 pounds. But let's throw this. Let's see how this impacts on that ice over there. Okay. Okay. You see how it obviously went in a lot deeper. Okay. That's the amount of penetration that I got through that same medium that we were testing all the other things out, okay? This is obviously a much better weapon for throwing. And here's the thing, there's not even, there's no blade on it here. But with something like this is ideal to take something like this, fix it to the end, and now you have a very effective throwing weapon. Okay, so whereas this thing by itself being thrown simply did not have enough mass, when you combine this and this, now all of a sudden the speed at which I am throwing this is not any faster. In fact, it's probably slowed down a little bit just because this is heavier, right? But because I have all that extra mass, it's a lot more effective. Now, something else I want to talk to you guys about with regards to thrown weapons. Right? Put this on the side over here. Okay. Let's talk about the spear tip. Okay. On that hole over there, would I want to attach this blade, or would I want to attach this blade over here? Now, here's the thing. This blade over here is a lot more narrow, a lot more thinner. Okay, so the important thing to know is that when this hits something, there's, because this is more narrow, more thinner, it has to push aside a lot less material in order to penetrate. Okay. Attaching this blade onto that pole, right? Well, now this is a lot wider, right? So even though this has more mass, because this is heavier, so when you put this onto that weapon, the combination of the two is going to be a little bit more. But however, when this impacts, right, because this is wider, this has to push aside much more material in order to pass through. You're probably going to get a lot less penetration with this. So here's the thing: when it comes to spears, spears are generally specialized. Okay, so you have some spears that have a tip that looks like this for penetration, and then you could have some spears, right, that basically have a blade that looks like this. That are, although they could be thrown, okay, putting a blade like this on a spear, basically I'm going to use this more, for cutting actions, right? So, rather than for throwing. Okay, so that's an important thing to consider with. I would also shorten this up a little bit so it's a little bit more. So at that point, basically, it's a fighting weapon. It's not something I would so much be throwing, but something that I'd be using, like a long sword. Basically like a pole arm. Okay. So that's an important consideration when it comes to thrown weapons. If you have a very wide tip or very wide blade, it has to push aside more material in order for it to pass through. Okay, so let's put this down for a minute. So I think we can, you guys can kind of see my point where when you see in the movie somebody taking a blade like this, throwing it across the room and basically just dropping somebody, that's false. It is not likely that anybody can throw this blade fast enough to get that penetration, to get it to penetrate deep enough into the body to actually drop somebody, okay? You need something that's a little bit heavier. Something like this I think a very talented person could throw this and maybe get enough of that penetration. But the important thing here is that when we got to the axe, an average person, right, can now take this, throw this, and impact somebody, and actually have an impact on somebody. The problem again is that because it's a very wide surface, right? It doesn't concentrate that force. This is not going to penetrate deep into the body. It might hit them, over here. It might break a couple of ribs, but you're not going to get that deep organ penetration. Spear, on the other hand, the average person can throw this, right, and get penetration. Okay, so that's why your spear is your preferred throwing weapon. Now, interesting thing to consider with regards to throwing weapons. The Romans had an interesting spear called a pillium, right, which they threw it, but the spear tip was very interesting because they weren't so much throwing it with the intention of necessarily hitting people on their bodies. They were throwing it with the intention of getting it stuck in people's shields, right? Because now if you got a shield and you get something like that pole stuck in it, all right, now in the middle of a battle, you pretty much got to throw the shield, and now you are shieldless. So they used the spears as a way to take the shields of the opposing side out of the fight. Okay. Now the other thing is that the spearheads that they used on their pilliums, when they would impact, they would also bend. Okay. So the reason why they did that is because, remember what I said earlier, when you throw a weapon at somebody, there's nothing to stop them from throwing it back at you. The nice thing about the Roman design is that after that impact, the spearhead would bend, and it now was not usable. They couldn't throw it back at you because it was all bent, and it wouldn't travel as well through the air. But that was really interesting. So here's the thing: if you want to really understand thrown weapons and medieval weapons and what's successful, study the Romans, because the Romans were really good at what they were doing. Okay, now obviously the Romans were prior to the medieval period, but a lot of the medieval techniques, were kind of based on the Roman design. Okay, the one thing that the Romans did not have was stirrups, right? That's really the biggest thing that made the biggest difference, I think, between the medieval fighting style and the Roman fighting style. I mean, Romans did use cavalry, but they didn't have stirrups on their horses. Let me get this. Hold back. So when Romans fought from horseback, right, and they threw their spears, they would basically either throw their spears overhanded like this, or if they were going to hold on to them, they would basically use an overhanded thrust like that. But they weren't using the momentum of the horse. Later on, during the medieval times, when they figured out how to put stirrups on horses, right? Now what they would do is they would take the spear, right, and basically at that point it became heavier. It became what they call the lance, right? And they would couch it under their arm like this, and now press their legs into the stirrups, right, and charge, now using the momentum of the horse. And now the power of the horse, which was driving forward, would transfer that energy from the horse up through the man, through his body, out the weapon, right? And that was the medieval, the medieval charge on horseback with the lance. Okay, so again, the lance being long with a tip over here, because it really effective, right? Again, concentrating that force. The weapon itself was also heavier, so it added to that forward momentum at the point of impact. So I hope you guys really enjoyed that. But that's, I'm glad somebody brought that up in the comments for discussion. With regards to throwing knives. I know we went like way off. I completely ran off with it. Went from knives to axes to lances with this. But I think that this is really interesting subject matter. So hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you're not a member of the channel, subscribe. and hit that bell button so you get notification of new videos I put up. I'll talk to you all soon.